Kaima was barely 4 years old when her life changed forever. Her father, a hard-working civil engineer in Abuja, was returning home late one evening when tragedy struck. His car collided with a speeding truck on a dimly lit highway, and he didn't survive. The news shattered their family. Kaima's mother, Mama Kaima, was left to pick up the pieces. With no stable source of income and the weight of grief bearing down on her, she decided to leave Abuja. Life in the city was expensive, and she couldn't bear to remain in a place filled with memories of her late husband. Port Harcourt, with its promise of opportunities and a fresh start, became her destination. She packed their few belongings, sold what little she could, and boarded a bus with young Kaima clinging to her side. The journey to Port Harcourt was long and uncomfortable. As the bus rattled along the pothole-riddled roads, Mama Kaima stared out the window, her thoughts clouded with uncertainty. Would they find a new home? Could she provide the life her daughter deserved? These questions weighed on her, but she held on to her resolve. Port Harcourt welcomed them with its humid air and the bustling chaos of city life. After days of searching, Mama Kaima found a room to rent in a crowded compound. The space was small, a single room with a tiny kitchen, but it was a start. Determined to provide for her daughter, Mama Kaima set up a provision shop in the nearby market. She worked tirelessly, her hands often blistered from carrying heavy goods. Despite her struggles, she always made time for Kaima, teaching her the importance of hard work and discipline. Years passed, and Kaima grew into a bright, curious girl. By the time she turned 12, she had become the pride of her school, excelling in academics and earning the admiration of her teachers. Her mother's sacrifices had not been in vain. But life in the compound wasn't without its challenges. It was noisy, crowded, and filled with nosy neighbors who always had something to say. Among them was Mama Kamsi, a kind-hearted woman with a son the same age as Kaima. Mama Kamsi and her son, Kamsi, lived in the room next to Mama Kaima. Like Mama Kaima, she was a single parent. Her husband had abandoned the family when Kamsi was just a baby, leaving her to raise him alone. Despite their different circumstances, the two women formed a close friendship. They often helped each other with chores, shared meals, and supported one another through tough times. Their bond extended to their children, who became inseparable. Kaim and Kamsi spent their days playing football in the compound, solving homework together, and inventing games that made them laugh until their sides hurt. Their laughter was a constant presence, a reminder that even in hardship, there was joy. But beneath the surface, their mothers had very different parenting styles. Mama Kaima was strict and disciplined, often emphasizing the importance of rules and structure. Kaima always remember, she would say, hard work and discipline will take you far in life. Mama Kamsi, on the other hand, was gentle and lenient. She believed in giving her son freedom to make his own decisions, trusting that he would learn from his mistakes. Despite their differences, the two women respected each other's methods, until the arrival of a smartphone introduced cracks in their relationship. One evening, after dinner, Kamsi approached his mother with a hopeful look on his face. "Mama, I need a phone," he said, his voice steady. Mama Kamsi looked up from her sewing. "A phone? What do you need a phone for?" "All my classmates have one," he replied. "They use it to study and do assignments. I feel left out." Mama Kamsi hesitated. She had never considered giving her 12-year-old son a phone. It felt too soon, too risky. But the earnest look in his eyes made her reconsider. "If you come first in your class this term, I'll buy you one," she finally said. Kamsi's face lit up. "Really? Thank you, Mama. I promise I won't disappoint you." Kamsi kept his promise. He studied harder than ever, waking up early to review his notes and staying late after school to attend extra lessons. Even Kaima noticed the change in him. "You're really serious about this phone," she teased one afternoon. "I have to be," he replied with a grin. "I'm going to prove to Mama that I deserve it." When the term ended, Kamsi achieved his goal. He came home clutching his report card, his face beaming with pride. True to her word, Mama Kamsi bought him a smartphone. the phone quickly became the center of attention. Kamsi explored its features, playing games, downloading apps, and even using it to research school projects. He often invited Kaima to join him, and the two spent hours laughing at funny videos and discovering new games. At first, the phone brought them closer. But as days turned into weeks, it introduced them to a world they weren't prepared for. It began innocently enough. One afternoon, while exploring his new phone, Kamsi stumbled across an app he hadn't seen before. It wasn't one of the educational tools he had downloaded, nor was it a game. Curious, he tapped on it. A list of videos appeared, their thumbnails featuring scenes and titles he didn't understand. "What's that?" Kaima asked, peering over his shoulder. "I don't know," Kamsi replied, scrolling through the list. "Looks like some kind of videos." He selected one and pressed play. The screen came to life with adults behaving in ways that children couldn't quite comprehend. At first, they were confused, then curious. They didn't understand what they were watching, but something about it felt secretive and forbidden. Kaima leaned back. "I don't think we should be watching this," she said hesitantly. "It's just a video," Kamsi replied, trying to sound nonchalant. "No one will know." That first video turned into another, and then another. What started as innocent curiosity quickly became a habit. Whenever their mothers were at the market, the children would lock themselves in Kamsi's room, using the phone to explore this strange new world. The phone began to change their friendship in subtle ways. Kaima, once outspoken and full of energy, became quieter, more withdrawn. She spent less time playing outside and more time in Kamsi's room. Kamsi, too, was different. He seemed distracted during their homework sessions, his mind always elsewhere. Their mothers noticed the change but chalked it up to growing pains. "Children at this age are always moody," Mama Kaima said to Mama Kamsi one evening. "Exactly," Mama Kamsi agreed, though she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. "But I'm proud of how responsible Kamsi has been with his phone. He's been using it for school, just like he said he would." One afternoon, Kaima and Kamsi sat in his room, scrolling through videos as usual. But this time, Kaima spoke up. "Do you ever wonder what it's like?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you mean?" Kamsi asked, not taking his eyes off the screen. "What they're doing," she clarified, her cheeks flushing. "Do you ever wonder what it feels like?" Kamsi froze. "Kaima, no. I don't think we should." "Why not?" she pressed. "It's not like anyone will know." Kamsi shook his head, but Kaima wouldn't let the idea go. After days of persistent questioning, he reluctantly agreed. They waited until the compound was quiet, their mothers safely at the market, before attempting to mimic what they had seen. It didn't go as planned. Kaima winced in pain and quickly told Kaima to stop. She ran out of the room, tears streaming down her face, leaving him feeling ashamed and confused. For days, Kaima avoided Kamsi. She refused to answer his calls or join him after school. At home, she stayed close to her mother, guilt and fear gnawing at her. Kamsi, meanwhile, was consumed with regret. He wanted to apologize but didn't know how. Finally, he approached her at school. "I'm sorry, Kaima," he said, his voice earnest. "I shouldn't have agreed. It was a mistake." Kaima hesitated before nodding. "It's okay. Let's just forget about it." But forgetting wasn't so easy. The incident had created a rift between them, one that even their shared laughter couldn't bridge. Weeks later, Kaima surprised Kamsi with a bold suggestion. "I think we should try again," she said, her voice steady. "What?" "No, Kaima. The last time. This time will be different," she insisted. "Please, don't disappoint me." Kamsi didn't want to agree, but the look in her eyes was impossible to refuse. Reluctantly, he nodded. They planned to meet after school, choosing an empty classroom as their secret spot. But just as they were about to act, the sound of footsteps startled them. It was the janitor, making his rounds. Panicked, the children fled, narrowly avoiding being caught. Back at home, Kaima convinced Kamsi to try again. "No one's here," she said. "Our mothers won't be back for hours." Reluctantly, Kamsi agreed. They locked the door to his room and prepared to act. But before they could begin, the sound of the front door opening sent them into a panic. "Kamsi! Why is this door locked?" Mama Kamsi's voice rang out. The children scrambled to cover their tracks, but Mama Kamsi wasn't convinced. Her sharp eyes darted between them, noting their nervousness and the way they avoided her gaze. "Both of you, sit down," she commanded. "Now tell me what's going on." With trembling voices, the children confessed everything: the videos, their curiosity, and their attempts to mimic what they had seen. Mama Kamsi listened in stunned silence, her heart sinking with every word. Mama Kamsi felt a wave of guilt wash over her. Had she been too lenient? Had her trust blinded her to what was happening right under her nose? She knew she couldn't handle this alone. Crossing the compound, she knocked on Mama Kaima's door. "We need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. As Mama Kaima listened to the story, her face turned pale. "This is Kaima's fault," she snapped. "She's the one leading Kamsi astray." "No, it's not just Kaima," Mama Kamsi replied firmly. "Both of them are involved, and we need to handle this together." For the first time, Mama Kaima's strict exterior softened. "What do we do?" she asked quietly. The two mothers decided to seek professional help. They enrolled the children in counseling sessions, where they learned about the dangers of their actions and the importance of making better choices. At home, both mothers made changes. Mama Kaima softened her strict rules, creating a more open relationship with her daughter. Mama Kamsi, on the other hand, became more vigilant, balancing her leniency with firm guidance. Though the families worked to rebuild trust, the bond between them was never the same. Eventually, Mama Kaima decided to relocate, hoping to give Kaima a fresh start. As the moving truck pulled away, Kamsi watched from the compound, his heart heavy with regret. He had learned a hard lesson, one that would stay with him for the rest of his life. Parents must stay actively involved in their children's lives, guiding them through the challenges of growing up. Technology is a powerful tool, but it requires boundaries and supervision. Phones should only be given when a child demonstrates the maturity to use them responsibly.